A new advisor that we just hired came to me with an objection that he heard from his friend. His friend was a smart person, good income, doing a lot of things right. When the subject of retirement planning came up, he heard something that I have heard more times than I can count over the last decade of doing this work. I max out my 401k every year, so I think I'm in pretty good shape. So here's the most realistic answer. Maybe, and he's probably partially right, could very well be setting himself up for a problem that he can't really see yet. Because the 401k or the company-sponsored retirement account is a great account, but it's only one account. And in Hawaii, where the cost of living is real, and where your dollars need to work harder than almost anywhere else in the country, one account, it's not a plan. It is just the start. So here's some context that we're sitting with, especially if you are in your 30s or your 40s. A lot of the retirees that you know, the ones who seem to be doing fine, are often living off a combination of three things: a pension, Social Security, and a paid off home. That combination worked, and for that generation, it was enough. But here is the reality for most people in their 30s or their 40s today. Pensions are largely gone, and most private sector workers, they don't have one. Home ownership in Hawaii is less accessible than it has ever been. And Social Security alone is probably not gonna be enough to fund the life that you are actually building towards. Nobody is assembling that three-legged retirement stool for you anymore. Which means the people who retire well from the next generation are going to be the ones who have built their own structure on purpose before they needed it. And in Hawaii, where every dollar needs to stretch further, that structure matters more than anywhere else. I want you to imagine two people. Same age, same income, same Hawaii cost of living, and same savings rate. One is 58 years old and realizes they don't actually have to keep doing this. Not because they hit some magic number, but because they built the right account structure. And now they have choices that most people their age do not have. They can take on that project that they actually want to do or enjoy doing. They can show up and support their family in meaningful ways. They can walk away from something like a job that has stopped serving them without the financial panic. Now the other person, they're 58 and still grinding. Not because they did not save, but because all their money is locked in one account with one tax treatment and no flexibility. They have to keep working, not want to, have to. And remember, same income, same savings rate, but completely different outcomes. The difference is not how much that they saved, it's how their dollars were structured. So let me give you the simplest solution or framework to address this. Think about your money in three different buckets. Each one is taxed differently. Each one has different rules. Each one has different strengths. And having all three is what gives you control. Bucket one, this is your taxable account. We call it your brokerage account. You invest money that you've already paid taxes on. You typically pay capital gains tax on the growth, but the money is accessible anytime. No age restrictions, no income limits, no penalties, no rules about when you can touch it. Bucket two is your tax deferred account. This is your traditional 401k or IRA. You contribute pre-tax dollars, the money grows without being taxed, but when you pull it out in retirement, you pay ordinary income tax on every dollar. Bucket three is your tax-free account. This is your Roth IRA or Roth 401k. You contribute after-tax dollars, but the growth and the withdrawals on that account are completely tax-free forever. Most people have one bucket, some have two, some even have three, but very few have built all three with intention. And without all three built with intention, you are missing very important tools. These are real tools that help determine how much of your money that you actually keep. And let's not forget, it's not about how much you make necessarily, but what you can keep. Now, let's spend a minute on the brokerage account because this is the account that people will often skip. Your employer sets up your 401k. You can open up a Roth option with a few clicks, but the brokerage account, it requires a deliberate decision. Nobody sets it up for you, no employer match, no automatic payroll deduction, no set menu of investment options. You have to choose to build it. And that choice, or the failure to make it, is often what separates the people who have options in their 50s and the people who do not. Here's what the brokerage account actually does. It lets you retire before 59 and a half without touching your retirement accounts and without paying early withdrawal penalties. It gives you a place to fund your Roth conversions without having to sell your investments to pay the tax bill, and gives you a flexible income source in retirement that you can pull from strategically based on what your tax picture looks like that year. In Hawaii, where managing your tax bill matters more than almost anywhere else in the country, that flexibility, it shouldn't be a luxury. It should be part of the plan. Here's a layer most people never get to until it's too late. It's not just about having all three buckets. It's also what you decide to put into each one. This is called asset allocation. Think about it this way. Having the wrong investments in the wrong accounts is like owning a vacation home that you can't access. The asset is there, it is real, it has value, but you cannot use it when you actually need it. All that potential is just sitting there, working basically against you instead of for you. Here's a simple way to think about it. Your Roth account is your most valuable tax shelter. Growth inside the Roth is completely tax-free. So the investments with the highest growth potential, oftentimes your equity holdings or your stocks, belong in the Roth account. The idea here is let the highest returning assets grow in the account where you're never going to pay capital gains. Your traditional IRA or your 401k tends to be where your bonds or your fixed income makes more sense. Bond interest gets taxed as ordinary income anyway, so sheltering it in a tax-deferred account helps to reduce the tax drag. And your brokerage account, depending on your use case of course, works well for a mix of growth assets that are tax efficient. Think index funds or ETFs with low turnover, assets that generate qualified dividends instead of ordinary income. The same allocation spread across the accounts the wrong way can cost you real money over a 20-year period. Same allocation structured intentionally stretches every dollar further. And in Hawaii, where we need our dollars to stretch as far as possible, this small detail has a major impact. Don't ignore it. Now let me show you why having all three buckets can change the retirement picture completely. Most people will assume that you draw down accounts in a simple order. Taxable first, then traditional, then Roth last. Sometimes that makes sense, but often a hybrid approach, pulling from all three strategically, can keep your tax bill low for decades. So here's a simple example. Say you need $120,000 a year to fund your retirement lifestyle in Hawaii. If all that income comes from your traditional IRA, every dollar is taxed as ordinary income. Depending on your situation, you could find yourself pushed into the 24% federal tax bracket. But if you pull strategically, some from your traditional, some from your brokerage, maybe some from your Roth, you could potentially keep your taxable income in that 12% federal bracket or maybe even lower. Same $120,000 need, same lifestyle, a dramatically different tax bill, and that savings could fund the next family trip. And then Hawaii state income tax sits on top of all of that, which means that every dollar you can shift from a taxable source to a tax-free source will grow tax-free at the state level as well. This structure does not change how much you spend, but how much you keep. So let's bring in another Hawaii specific piece because I think this is where it gets even more important. In Hawaii, certain account contributions that have come from an employer may qualify for a state income tax exemption when you take distributions in retirement, which means if those accounts are properly separated, you have a bucket of retirement money that grows for decades and comes out completely free of Hawaii state income tax. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. I have a client who's in her 40s who has $260,000 sitting in an account that qualifies for that state tax exemption. She has another 20 to 30 years before she retires. Assuming a reasonable rate of return, maybe 8%, that account can grow between $1 and $2 million by the time she retires. Every dollar that she pulls from that account in retirement pays 0 state income tax. Year after year for potentially 20 or 30 years of retirement. That is an enormous amount of tax savings compounded over a lifetime. And what's scary is that account almost got rolled into a mixed up IRA before anyone caught it. If those employer contributions had been mixed with her contributions into one account, that exemption would have been far harder to access cleanly. The separation decision, it cost her nothing, but the value of that decision is going to follow her through her entire retirement. Now contrast that with people who I've worked with who come to us when they are already in retirement, where they rolled everything into one account years ago. Nobody told them about Hawaii rules, nobody explained the exemption, so everything went into one account. Pretty simple, pretty clean, and then done. You can still work with it. There's a calculation called the exclusion ratio that an accountant can apply to identify the exempt portion. But it's more complex, it requires documentation every year, and they are probably paying more in state taxes than they would have if the contributions were separated from the start. A decision made decades ago following them through retirement. The lesson is simple. You have changed jobs and you have old retirement accounts to roll over. Find out how you can separate employer and employee contributions. It's one of the highest value, lowest cost planning moves available to Hawaii residents. And literally almost nobody talks about it. So here's something we're saying directly. A $2 million portfolio in Hawaii is not the same as a $2 million portfolio in Texas. The cost of living is different. The state tax picture is different. The dollar has to work harder here, which means structure is not optional. It's how you make the math work in one of the most expensive places in the world to live. The people who I have watched build real freedom here are not always the highest earners in the room. They're the ones that understood early that how your dollars are structured can matter as much as how many dollars you actually have. So let me bring this back to where we started. Two people, same income, same savings rate. One retires at 58 with options. One retires at 67 because they have to. The difference is not discipline, it's not intelligence, it is structure. 3 buckets built intentionally with the right investments in each one. A withdrawal strategy that keeps taxes low for decades. And in Hawaii, the specific account separations that protect you from paying taxes that you were never supposed to pay. This is what makes work optional. This is what makes the life that you are building here actually sustainable. And not someday, but on your timeline, on your terms. So the next video is going to cover long-term care costs in Hawaii, and on theme, or one of the highest in the nation, and which can quietly derail an otherwise solid retirement plan, especially if you do not have a real answer for it. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you think it would be helpful to sit down and map out your account structure, your 3 buckets, your Hawaii specific tax picture, that is exactly what we do at Claw Capital Partners. Head to clawcapitalpartners.com. We'll take a real look at where you are and what type of account structure makes sense for your situation. See you in the next one.